All right, Gemini and Sagittarius. So, of course, this is also going to impact the third and ninth houses. And what typically happens in the normal progression of the zodiac is that once we know we're here and we have um, the will to do and the spark of life with Aries, and we develop our concept of our value system with Taurus. What we have to offer, what about us is valuable, um, and what we deserve to have, and it's our like physical stability and security in life, and our just ability to experience pleasure and enjoy things, like sensory things. So then it then naturally flows to Gemini, where once we have this feeling of self-worth and stability and comfort, we're in a position to go interact with the world and learn more about it. Like, okay, the world is a safe, comfortable place. I want to know all about it. And we learn to communicate, and we um, learn information about the environment. We perceive things, and we learn how to um, like logically process those things. We learn how to reason. And then from that, it naturally flows to Cancer, where, we know we're here, we're alive, we're safe and comfortable, we're exploring our environment, and we know how to communicate. And in Cancer, we're being emotionally nurtured primarily. And, we get our psychological foundations in the fourth house in Cancer. So once we're able to, properly communicate, it makes the whole, giving and receiving emotional expression thing, a bit easier. And, developing our roles in the family um, is something that follows from the ability to communicate as well. So that's one side of it. And then on the other side of it, we have, Libra, understanding of give and take in relationships, and, having harmony with other people and considering other people's perspectives. Then we have Scorpio, where we explore our innermost world and, experience intimacy and do magic, and explore power and what that means, and how to wield it. And um, we experience loss and grief and figurative death. And um, then it moves on to Sagittarius, where, in Scorpio, we're confronting our pain. And then in Sagittarius, we're making sense of it. This is where we make sense of the world and life. It's the quest for truth with a capital T. And it's where we expand our horizons and, see what life has to offer. And then that naturally flows to Capricorn, where, once we have an idea of our worldview, then we have a concept in like our belief system, then we have a concept of how to contribute to society, and we have our vocational training, as vocational training is like a ninth house Sagittarius kind of thing. And we're in a position to be a productive member of society, and to have a profession, and to focus on material acquisition, which is largely what Capricorn is about. And also just like fitting into society, and um, having a role in society. So like Cancer's like the role in the family, and Capricorn's the role in society. So with this order disrupted and possibly even reversed with the Gemini and Sagittarius interception, what ends up happening is more of like, so we have our sense of self-worth through Taurus, and our concept of what we find valuable and what we like and don't like. And then that flows to Sagittarius instead of Gemini. So instead of um, having this ability to like communicate and learn information and perceive and process information and form logical conclusions, we're given a belief system and expected to just work with it. Um, and and that's something that's like imposed on us as part of our conditioning. And just the concept of the way life works, instead of exploring it and discovering stuff, we are just like force fed this concept of how life works and expected to run with it. So then um, the nurturing that we get in Cancer is based off of that belief system and worldview, instead of being based off what we communicate and our like actual perceptions of what's happening in the world around us. Then on the other side of it, it gets disrupted because instead of our Scorpio like power and secrets and darkness being used to fuel a search for meaning, we're instead put in this position where the way we communicate needs to fall into like certain parameters, and there's a lot that we're just not allowed to say. And then this limits our ability to find a it limits our ability to complete vocational training, limits our ability to expand our worldview, it limits our ability to form our own belief system. And then as a result, it limits our ability to like know what kind of profession to have and to like find a good place for ourselves in society, because we didn't have that opportunity to expand our horizons and develop a belief system for ourselves. So then um, going back to my notes here. This is the interception of a split between information and worldview. And I just realized that worldview is supposed to be one word, not two. So from another perspective, when you're looking at it in terms of like needing to get to, like some astrologers when they're teaching interceptions will teach that you can access the intercepted sign through the sign before it. So like looking at it from that perspective, with Gemini intercepted, there can be a reluctance to speak. So like speaking in front of the class or engaging in light social interactions can be really difficult. Exploring the world and freely experiencing what life has to offer and developing a belief system may also be challenging, particularly earlier in life. And then because Taurus and Scorpio are on the cusps, people with this interception may find that speaking to others is easier when they're getting paid for it, such as teachers and authors. And they're also more comfortable exploring philosophy and building a spiritual belief system for themselves if their views are a secret from others, because Scorpio is there. So that's one possible way to go about opening this interception. So as far as the way that the childhood environment does not allow for people with this interception to just be what they are, the way the environment invalidates their inner knowing. Um, well, the childhood environment for people with this interception is one where what they're told about the nature of life doesn't match their own observations of their environment. What they're told doesn't make sense, but they're expected to believe it anyways. They end up having to learn how to respond to others in a manner that matches how they're expected to think and perceive the world, while their own understanding of what they see has to be kept separate. Um, Sometimes parents have different belief systems from each other that they're simultaneously teaching their children. So these children end up having to learn how to respond in the context of not just one illogical belief system, but multiple different belief systems, and none of which make sense to them. Parents may also expect children to understand and live by a belief system that they aren't actually ever even taught. So the parents' beliefs are assumed without much discussion, and they just expect the kid to know these things. Their parents may also claim to have certain beliefs, but not actually live by those beliefs. And this hypocrisy must never be discussed. So, for example, they may go to school, to Sunday school, and learn that Jesus was all about love. And then in their home environment, they, may see a lot of hateful expressions towards, various groups of people or each other or whatever, um, and it just doesn't click, doesn't make sense. They're expected not to ask questions, not to share information, not to discuss things they see, and to be able to provide answers without ever having actually been given the information from which to derive those answers. Life doesn't make sense, and a great deal of mental energy goes into memorizing concepts that don't match what they perceive. For this reason, their information processing system is bogged down and unable to expand and develop as it otherwise would be. It's like a computer that's running multiple emulators for other operating systems simultaneously. It can slow down the system's processes. Because their parents' expectations don't make sense, they have to do mental gymnastics every time they're expected to understand something or give the correct response. This can create the appearance that they're processing slowly or that they're not able to compute much information at once, but the reality is probably more the opposite. When what their parents tell them about the nature of life doesn't match their own perceptions, small children are essentially forced to stop trusting their senses and perceptions to at least some extent. They often end up choosing not to perceive as much because it overloads their system. This may manifest as dyslexia, tunnel vision, or another form of taking in less information from their environment. So, so some of this is along the lines of like, don't ask questions that you don't want the answer to or that you can't have the answer to. And, not being allowed to learn about certain subjects. when what their parents tell them about the nature of life doesn't match their own perceptions. Small children are essentially forced to stop trusting their senses and perceptions, at least to some extent. So I think that this can also apply to the Pisces Virgo interception, and that um, awareness of what's like going on around you, like in the physical environment, can be like Virgo or Gemini. But Gemini like tends more to do with um, like language based type of information and less to do with sensory information. But there is a sensory component to it though, because like, you know, a Gemini thing would be like, why is the sky blue? This is a very Gemini third house kind of question. And if you can't see that the sky is blue, you don't know to ask this question. So there's at least like a very basic level of like awareness of the physical surroundings in order to be able to have this kind of curiosity, and to know to ask questions and to like perceive the information with which you like learn how to reason. So it's not completely language based, just like more so than the Virgo side of it, I think. So, anyways, sometimes adults in their lives just flat out lie about their behavior or the nature of a situation, and they're expected to know not to bring attention to this lie. Like they shouldn't say, why did you do that? Because the parent's going to be like, I didn't do that. And they obviously just did that. um, Unkept promises are also a form of lying that can occur with this interception. Like if, you know, their parents say like, we'll go to the park after school tomorrow, not today, and then it doesn't end up happening tomorrow, then I don't know how loud that is, but there's like a really loud car outside right now. Anyway, so you know, then that's another way of like what you're told not being like not matching the actual reality of what happens. And it can create a like distortion in time, I guess, according to this author, when that happens, like connecting what we're told today with what actually happens tomorrow. Um, I'm not entirely sure that I'm with her on this notion that Mercury is responsible for our sense of time. I think that's more of a Saturn thing, personally. But in any case, um, it also creates a major disconnect, a split between a person, you know, their understanding of life and their ability to communicate. As adults, these individuals often think in concepts instead of words or mental pictures, and have a difficult time assessing their belief system, or accessing, sorry, their belief system to edit it, or communicating their understanding of life to others. So um, people with this interception, you know, when you're asking them about like, you know, what they think about something or why they think what they do, like even if they're like trying to explain it to you, they might not be able to find the words for it. And people with this interception also are more likely to, you know, like some people think in like mainly in mental pictures, some people think mainly with language, like words, like verbally inside their head. They hear their thoughts. And some people think mainly in concepts. And like these are the people who think mainly in concepts and have a difficult time articulating their thoughts to others, putting it into like a verbal language. Their belief systems seem, and maybe often are, illogical because of this disconnect, because they absorbed faulty beliefs as children without having effective means of altering their belief system at a later date due to Gemini's lack of access to Sagittarius. So like, you know, their reasoning and their worldview, just like there's this disconnect there. Um, And like a lot of these worldviews were taught before we're old enough to like recognize what's happening, and like kind of defenseless in terms of absorbing this concept of how life works. When asked to when asked why they believe what they do about the nature of a situation or why things happen the way they do, they may not be able to explain it effectively, even if they want to do so. Sometimes this split can create a poor concept of causal relationships, or at least a poor ability to explain them. And this has to do with also the disconnect between like how life works and the logic behind it. This can create the appearance to those in their early environment that they're impulsive or lack awareness of consequences. So, like, if they can't explain why, then it's assumed that they don't have a good reason, which is not the case. And they know better than to try to explain their thoughts or decisions to their parents, because their parents are incapable of understanding, and attempting to expand their parents' worldview or knowledge would lead to punishment or criticism. Because they're a master in these areas in ways that their environment cannot accept or allow, school can be a frustrating experience for them. They find themselves being taught inaccurate information through ineffective or outdated methods. The style of instruction may also be much too slow for them. These are people who can process very, very, very quickly, but um, but it's in a way that's unusual and like not well aligned with their environment in early childhood. My mouse just stopped working, and without that, I can't like pause this or like click to. Okay, there we go. I need to change this battery. Ugh. Rotate the battery. That's silly. Okay. Ugh. I totally know I'm not gonna edit this video, but I at least need to like pause it right now and change this battery so that doesn't happen again. My apologies. Ugh, it's doing the thing. Once again. Come on now. You can do it. I'm just trying to pause this. I'm sorry. Come, you know what? I have my backup batteries right here. Oh no, I don't know if they're charged. Well, I know that one's not. Oh, now I can pause. Okay. Hopefully this battery has a decent charge on it. All right, so the style of instruction may also be much too slow for them, because these are people that actually can process really quickly, just like not in a way that's acceptable in their early environment. So school is boring and feels like a waste of time at best. At its worst, it's impossible to learn effectively because their learning style is just so much more advanced than the teaching methods available to them. Sometimes they may refuse to learn and may even drop out of school. So, one of the things that can happen with this interception is that they have a hard time learning some things because it's not taught in a way that meshes well with them, or they just refuse to learn things from others. They just like outright don't. Um, so that's one way that people with this interception can like try to rebel against it. I hate that word, rebel. Anyways, when people with this interception try to do the opposite of what they've been taught, they may also experience a dramatic shift in their religion or philosophy of life, but it's still extreme and illogical and just really doesn't actually work for them. So, changing religion does not heal this split. Like, sometimes people with this kind of interception, like if they grew up in a really strict Christian environment, they may like convert to like it, Hinduism, or just a completely different religion. But if they're still following a religion that's like being taught by others, especially if it's like extreme or like doesn't like really work for them or make sense, then it's still not healed. It's just like them trying to do the opposite. In order to heal the split, it's necessary to tap into their own innate knowing of the nature of life through their instincts initially. So when there's a disconnect between like their like logical, rational thought and their worldview, um, in order to get to their worldview, well, first of all, if there's a split in the signs before it, Scorpio and Taurus, that needs to be healed first. And once that is healed, that makes it a lot easier to get to this one. But also, if they can just like recognize that their truth isn't necessarily going to be something that makes sense, then at least they can access it um, without having the burden of rationality and like logical analyzation holding them back. Like they can know their truth without being able to explain it, and acknowledging that and flowing with that is something that's important for people with this interception. It's also a good idea to make it a point to see more of their surroundings as they go about their day and explore and ask questions. They need to know that just because they can't explain something doesn't mean it's not true. Also, just because others don't perceive what they do doesn't mean that it's wrong. Trusting their inner knowing and perceptions and purposely expanding their worldview will increase their capacity to process, access, and alter their belief system. It's important for them to recognize that the belief systems they can learn from others are likely not as advanced as the one with which they were born. They were born masters, remember. Exploring others' belief systems may be of value, but none of those teachings will actually be their truth. So it's more about just, getting a feel for what else is out there and less about like picking one to follow. Life is a lot broader and a whole lot stranger than anything that they were taught growing up. So being open to new possibilities that don't make sense is critical for people with this interception. As this interception opens, they discover their ability to channel informations and concepts from sources beyond usual human perception. They can receive and communicate information that's more advanced than what's typically been available to humans so far in Earth's history. They're naturals at astral travel. They may also find that they're able to communicate more effectively when they learn languages that are less limited and cumbersome than like spoken language. So languages such as symbolism, advanced mathematics, art, and music may give them an opportunity to express things that they would not usually be able to express. Many authors have this interception, like that was in both of the books that I have been, referencing primarily. And these are the spiritual leaders for the next age of humanity. And, I kind of want to add this is for the Taurus Scorpio interception. I didn't mention this in the last video, but those with the Taurus Scorpio interception are the financiers for the next age. So like once they know their values and they're able to actually like use their magic and ability to attract to be a channel for wealth to come into the world. And they can channel it into, the things that they value, um, and help those things grow. So for example, let's say they personally value community gardens. Then, they can buy a plot of land and create a community garden. just as a super random example. But okay, so this is not a Gemini Sagittarius thing. This is a Scorpio, Taurus Scorpio interception thing. But just to add to the last video, that was something that was mentioned in one of the books, and I was like, oh, that's kind of random. And then when I started thinking about how the same idea applies to Gemini and Sagittarius, and what people with interceptions who are, born masters in this area are here to accomplish. They are here to bring humanity into the next age, and each of them has a different role. I wonder if this book talks about the role that Aries, people with the Aries Libra have in that. I should probably pause it while I do this. My apologies. Well, people with the Aries Libra interception are aware of their own divinity and that of others. And, when you see that in others and interact with them accordingly, then, you could bring God consciousness and, the spark of life into the next age. But just kind of like quickly skimming the end of that chapter, I'm not seeing anything about that. Well, anyways, so that is the Gemini Sagittarius interception, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Thank you for watching.